Hey guys, welcome back to yet another YouTube video, and of course another season review. This time I'm going to be reviewing the Hawthorn Football Club in this video. Of course last year, last year was the final season under Alistair Clarkson for Hawthorn. Finished down the bottom of the ladder, or down the bottom end of the ladder. This time around, they finished up in 13th with the 8 wins for the season. With not 13 wins, 8 wins. 8 wins for the season. Compared, one position and one win better than what they had done the previous year. But that's despite having 2 draws in 2021, unlike this year when it had none. It was a pretty okay season in Sam Mitchell's first year. Firstly, the highlights, of course, the highlight of their season was the round 1 win. Round 5 win on Easter Monday over the reigning premiers Hawthorn. I watched all of that game actually live that day. And I could tell straight away that Hawthorn were right up for the fight because they had at one stage, I think they got like 3 goals in like the first 5 minutes before a Geelong player had even touched the ball. So that was how dominant they were at the start. And then basically Geelong, as we all know Geelong were, came back, and then unfortunately and then Hawthorn kicked a goal. Films from Mitchell Lewis, I believe it was, with about a minute left to seal the game and seal the win. So it was that was a pretty good win. Some people might say that big win over Port Adelaide in round 2 as well, and nobody expected them to smash Port Adelaide to the tune of, 10 goals in the end. Nobody really expected that, really. But the main highlight for me for the year was that win over eventual minor premiers Geelong on Easter Monday. The lowlights for me, the only lowlight for me, it was an inconsistent season. I mean, they ran. Running it through. So it was Hawthorn. They only deservingly lost twice against the top 8 sides. Again, ironically, both of them were against Melbourne and Sydney, who are both playing each other tomorrow night in the qualifying final. As I'm recording this, the other 4, the round 12 against Collingwood, round 13 against Fremantle, round 9 against Richmond, the first game against Richmond for the season, and the round 23 game against the Bulldogs, were matches where Lee Matthew, I've heard Lee Matthew say this as well, gallant defeats, where they didn't play well but almost found a way to win. If the Collingwood game had been the opposite, if the Collingwood game had been the opposite, if they had somehow got that goal in the dying minutes to win the game, and then the Richmond game where they at one stage, I think they were within like 3 points at one stage within Richmond. And then obviously Richmond stormed back home in the end, recovering well to win that game. And then also the Bulldogs, they were in like, I think they were in like, what was it, 4 points or something like that at one stage in the final term in the game a couple of weeks ago against the Dogs. But unfortunately, the Dogs stormed home, and obviously with what happened again with the Carlton and Collingwood game, they ended up making the finals. So yeah, and then there was the 2 wins against Geelong, as I mentioned in my highlights, and Brisbane, which that was a pretty entertaining game. I watched bits of it, not all of it, but most of it, and it was a brilliant game. It was high scoring and all that. So yeah. So they were okay against the top 8 sides. Then we go to the flip side, which were their losses. Their biggest loss was against St Kilda by 69 points, and they didn't even make it. Their two biggest defeats were all against teams that didn't make the 8. That was St Kilda and Gold Coast in the end. Richmond won. Well, obviously Richmond were just tuning up for finals, anyways. So what I'm saying with their inconsistent season, if they want to challenge for the 8 next year, they need to improve on their best footy and their worst footy and narrow that down. I think that's how, if they want to make finals, they need to narrow it, because otherwise it's just going to be too much. It'll be too much, and they'll probably miss finals again. So yeah. What do I mark their season out of 10? I probably would give. I probably settled on 4. I settled on 4.5 out of 10. I wasn't gonna go any lower because otherwise that would be harsh, and I didn't want to go any higher than that. I probably would have given them a 5, because I was really expecting to finish way lower than that, and then 13th, and get less wins than that, to be honest, at the start of the season, with their 8 instead of their 8 wins. But some people would say, oh, that's a bit it's a bit, I think you're overrating Hawthorn. So I settled on 4.5. Around the middle, 4.5 out of 10. Really, it was an okay season for Hawthorn. Did overachieve. I didn't expect them to finish where they were in 13th and have 8 wins for the year. So yeah. And almost over the wins that in Clarko's final year. So in last year. So yeah. Now to the players. So first off, obvious one, Mitch Lewis. This is probably his breakout year. I mean, and the statistics on his goal kicking shows why. Before the 2022 season, he kicked 47 goals in 36 games, which is, on average, that's 1.3 goals per game. But in the 15 games he's played this year, he's kicked 37 goals, averaging just under 2.5 goals per game, at 2.4 to be exact. And the game which stands out for me in my mind was the first half against Adelaide. I mean, when he kicked 5, I think he got 5 goals and 10 touches. I think he ended up with at half time in that game. That's him. That's probably him at his best, at his most damaging best. That he, and I think if Hawthorn were more consistent with their performances, maybe Lewis should have had more than his 37 goals, And if he played more, probably he could have had more than his 30. He would have more than his 37 goals in 15 games this year. So I think he's one of those where I think been saying a lot of players in these season reviews that if they have a big preseason, then this one's no exception. If he has a massive preseason, if Hawthorn get a massive preseason out of him, then he could well and truly explode in 2023. And even so, probably already has exploded, because apparently there was rumours during the year where I think he was getting trade rumours to probably go to Collingwood. I believe. I think it was some stage it was rumoured to go to Collingwood, despite him having I think it was a 4 or 3 year deal. But he decided to stay with the Hawkers. So as I say, I think Mitch Lewis is ready to explode in 2023, in my opinion. Another player who was added to the All-Australian 40 squad this year, I think, was James Sicily. And he's been totally consistent throughout a whole year, throughout his whole career. Stats they speak for themselves. He's been a great player for the Hawks for a long period of time, and I would assume he will be. I won't be surprised if when it comes to let's say 4 months' time, he'll be announced, or very soon he'll probably be announced as Hawthorn's next captain. I'd assume, and I won't be surprised if he gets it, because he's been very consistent on the field. Even though he is at times, he does a bit of this sometimes. He's a leader that Hawthorn needs for the future, to be honest. As well. No reading of statistics, because they just speak for themselves, really. Dylan Moore, he burst on the scene last year. This year he didn't have a good that bigger year than he did last year, but I think. But with 26 goals, he played every game this season. He kicked 26 goals, over 1.2 goals per game. Probably because Hawthorn tended to play him at times throughout the season in the midfield. So I don't know if Hawthorn are planning him on moving him into the midfield, or is he just gonna be, or is this season he's gonna be a stay at home small forward? I don't know what their plan is. So of course this year he's embedded on his average goals per game this season than he has been before his whole career before 2022. He was averaging a goal a game before 2022, and then this year he's up to 1.2 goals per game. This year, where he kicked 26 goals in 22 games, compared to before the 2022 season, he was kicking 31 goals from 30 games before then. So and he's recently played over just reached the 50 game milestone. So good on him. And what also people are starting to realise now is that he's a great great player when it comes to first halves, because out of his 26 goals that he's kicked this season, 20 of them had come in the first half. The most notable one, when I said earlier about the Geelong Hawthorn game, He ended up kicking four. I think he kicked three of his four. He kicked all his 4 goals in the first half, and I think he kicked 3 of his 4 in the first quarter as well. So that was unbelievable by Dylan Moore, and I think, and I don't know what that boils down to with him not scoring any goals in the second half. Is it just him, or is it down to conditioning by the club? I don't know. I don't know what that boils down to. I really can't put my finger on why that is. But I think it's maybe just him. Off to a good. It's all about teams and players getting off to a good start in the game, and I think Moore definitely has that ability to do that. Another last player, another one player who is in defender, I think it is starting to come of age, I believe. Even though he didn't play, I think he only played a handful of games at the Gold Coast Suns and then moved to Hawthorn, and he's played more games there. That is Jack Screamshaw. He's really become a really elite interceptor. Of course, he's averaging over 7 intercept possessions a game. Under 2.5 intercept marks per game. He's not bad in terms of the touches. Of course, he's averaging 19 touches a game. That's pretty good for a defender. And of course, he's pretty good in terms of rebound 50s, averaging 4 rebound 50s a game. The only thing that he's really needs to work on, of course, his meters gained and his one-on-ones. He's averaging 1 one-on-ones per game. That's a lot of ones. And of course, he's averaging 300 under 301 meters gained. Average 301 meters gained this season, which is in the average category for in terms of AFL. So that would be what I think. For me, I think his intercepts. I think he's more of an intercept possession and mark type of player. I think if he further improves on that, I think he'll be. I think it'll be important to him because obviously and for Hawthorn as well, because at times Sicily can always just be a one-man band down in that defence to be honest, and it'll be good if Scrimshaw can be that same. I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying he should be not. He should be the same player as Sicily. But they need someone or close to Sicily's caliber, which Scrimshaw could do. So yeah, on that front. So that was the players under pressure, and that is the remaining senior players that are still there presently at the club. Just today, as I'm recording this, it was announced that that Liam Shields was calling it a day. He's retired. He's retiring, or retired, I should say. And the other day or yesterday, it was as I'm recording this, it was the shock news that Tom Mitchell has left Hawthorn and is rumoured to potentially go to Collingwood. So, obviously not surprisingly, because his father Barry Mitchell had played for Collingwood in the past. So, not surprisingly that Tom would go down that road to Collingwood. And of course, obviously, Ben Mcavoy is obviously, previously has already announced long announced his retirement, and he's retired now. it's up in the air whether Luke Bruce and Jack Gunston stay. There's rumours that Gunston's going to go to Brisbane, and apparently there's rumours that Luke Bruce is potentially going to join Clarkson at North Melbourne. That's what I've heard in the last week or two. So if those two go, probably the oldest in that team is gonna be Kyle Hardigan, who the former Crow. We still don't know. You never know. Probably maybe tomorrow he could announce his retirement, or over the weekend he could announce his retirement. Possibly. So if you take Hardigan out of the equation, for example, the oldest there, the three oldest players at the club would be Wingard, Sam Frost, and O'Meara. And of course, Sicily's going to be 20. Is going to be next year. He's going to turn 28 next year. And of course, I said Wingard, Frost, and O'Meara, they're going to turn 29 by this time next year. They're going to be 29 years of age by this time next year. So if Hardigan decides to retire, I don't know, right now or over the weekend, or over the coming weeks, for example, he's the only one that is over 30 years of age. He's going to be turning 31 next year, to be exact. So it all falls onto those four, as I said: Wingard, Frost, O'Meara, and Sicily. I think Sicily's going to be the next captain, I'd assume. And for me, I don't trust Wingard to provide some experience and leadership, because obviously he hasn't proved that since he's gone to Hawthorn, to be honest. Frost is okay. And O'Meara, of course, he's been decent. He hasn't been in the first few years at Hawthorn. He was actually quite good, but in the last year or so, he hasn't really done that much, really. So that is my worry about Hawthorn, their senior group. That is if Bruce and Gunston do leave. No matter about Mitchell, he's already gone. Shields is retired. Mcavoy's retired. We still don't know if those two and Bruce and Gunston are staying. That is the concern for Hawthorn, and I don't know if I don't trust, as I said, Wingard to provide some experience in that team. Frost, O'Meara, okay, and then Sicily obviously is going to be the next captain, obviously. So those are the four. There will be the four out, or counting Hardigan. There will be the five oldest players in this squad in 2023. So there will be a lot of pressure on them, and obviously there's a lot. There's going to be. I'd assume they're going to bring in a lot of youngsters as well at some stage, one way or another. That already going to play next year. So yeah. So that is it for in the review of Hawthorn. 7 wins and 14 from the ladder last year. This year, 8 wins and 13th position on the ladder in Sam Mitchell's first year. Pretty decent year for Sam, and I think if they improve their best and worst footy, narrow their best and worst footy, I should say, then they can potentially challenge for the 8 next year. So yeah. So that is about it. Like this video. Cheers to anybody who's a Hawthorn fan. Comment down below if you're a Hawthorn fan, for example. Comment down below what were your thoughts on the season, and anybody else. Do you think that Bruce and Gunston will stay? In your opinion, let me. I'll love to see your opinion. And one last thing, somewhere down there, would be a big red. Would press the big red button, which is labeled subscribe. So until next time, guys, I'll see you guys later, and wherever you may be, may the sunshine or the moon shine on you.